Good night. How everyone doing tonight? God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma J. I'm here to give you a spiritual divine word on today, and the topic gonna be the three bravery men who was in the high furnace. And it's gonna come from Daniel chapter 3, verse 1 to 30. Okay, so we have a king that made an image of gold and set up, and it stood all around. So he made this gold, and because he want everyone to bow down to him and serve his God. Now, chapter 4 through 6 said, after the king had finished the image of their gold, he commanded them, when you hear this sound or this horn, it's for you to bow down and worship this God. Whoever does not bow down and worship immediately will be thrown into the blazing furnace. Now we have someone who saw that the three men did not worship the image, and he denounced that they did not pay attention. Now we had someone that saw that these three men did not bow down, and it was not paying attention to what the man was saying about worshiping his God. So now the king played the sound of the horn again. So he gonna play it the second time because he want these three men to bow down and worship him. Or not, they gonna be thrown in the furnace. Now the king told them, and after he made the commandment that I'm gonna blow this the second time, so y'all have to worship and bow down this God. So after he said that, he won't be sarcastic and say, now who gonna save you? Who gonna save you? So then verse 3 to 16, now these three men, they respond. So they respond and told them that God will save us. They also said, if God do not save us, we still will not serve your God. So we see that these three men have confidence. They have confidence in our God. They say their God will save them. And even if he don't save them, they still wasn't going to worship no other God but their own God. Now these three brave men, they're willing to put their life on the line because they believe in their heart that God will save them. So these three men was brave to stand up to their king. And they had confidence in God that he will save them. They put their life on the line when they say, if God do not save them. Now that meant they weren't going to serve his God. They were going to serve only his own God. And that's how we have to be. Like when we in a burning situation, we have to be like these three men that stood their ground. They stood their ground. They said they weren't going to serve and worship this man God. And they meant what they said. So when the sound went off the second time, they did not bow down. They meant they weren't going to bow down to no other gods but their own. So now the king are mad. So now he placed the order. Because you remember he said whoever don't bow down, he was going to throw them in a hot furnace. So now he placed the order for them to heat it up 7 times hotter than usual. So now this burner is going to be real hot, and he about to throw them in there. So he sent his soldiers to tie these three men up and throw them in there. So while the soldier tied them up and threw them in there, by the burner was so hot that it killed the soldier that he sent out. So imagine how hot that thing is, and he tied them up and put them in a hot furnace. But see, these three men have so much confidence, they know that their God was going to save them. So imagine how hot the furnace is. Killed the soldier, and now they're throwing the three men in there. So the three men were tied up in a hot furnace, waiting on their God to save them. Now these are three brave men. They are so brave that they risked their life to go in a furnace, knowing that their God was going to save them. Now the king see these 4 men walking around in a fire, unbound and unharmed, So the king called them to come out. Now imagine that you in a hot furnace and he had it 7 times hotter. And now he see 4 men just walking around like it's not nothing, just walking around, unbound. You remember they was tied up. So they unbound and they looked at unhome, just walking around. So now these 3 men was tied up in the hot furnace, but they in this hot furnace unbound, unhome, and now the king see them just walking around like it's not nothing. So when they came out, the fire did not harm them. Their body, none of their hair on their head, their robes, and they will smell. There was no smell of fire on them at all. So that's amazing. That's God doing. So they're in a hot furnace was 7 times hotter, but then they come out unharmed. Don't smell like fire at all. So they had fully confidence in God that God was gonna save them. Because they just walk around in a hot furnace untied when they was in there tied up. Then come out. But they come out, their clothes, their robe, none of that wasn't burnt up. They wasn't smelling like smoke or fire at all. So when they had confidence and hold on and wait on God, we see that God came through. So God said he would never leave us nor forsake him. And he made that promise. So when they was in that fire, they believed that God was going to save them because they believe that God said he will never leave us nor forsake us in any problem or any situation that we in. So when we in our burning storm and come out, don't come out looking like the stone just beat you down. See, these 3 men, they came out just looking good, wasn't burnt up or nothing. So we're gonna come out looking good and unharmed too, if we have so much confidence and wait on God to save us. Now the king praised these 3 men, their God who had angels that came and rescued them. They trusted God, were willing to give up their lives rather than to serve or worship any God except their own God. Now we have to get to a place, including myself, no matter what situation we in, we have to trust God to come through. We see no one but God will save us. Now they believe that nobody but the only true God was gonna save them, and that's who saved them. And they were willing to be in it, give up their life, because earlier they said even if God don't save us, we still will not bow down, and it meant that. And they hold on, they believe in God, and God saved them. So situation I'm in now seem impossible, but I'm holding on, trusting God that things will change. We have to come out looking like queens and kings. Don't come out looking like you've been burnt up, beat down, and everything else. So now the king saw how God saved them. The 3 men. Now the king saw how their God saved them. So then he wants to promote them. And that's out. At first, he wanted to be sarcastic, like, who gonna save you? So now he saw how the God saved them. So that they was in a hot burning on furnace and came out unharmed and was not burnt up at all. So now the king wants to promote them. So now a true bravery. Now these 3 men, they respect their king and are willing to carry out their duties, but they draw the line when it comes to worshiping false God. They believe the God of heaven will protect them from the furnace, but even if he does not, they will not back down. They will rather die than betray him. And that's how we have to be. We have to trust God enough to lay our life down. Because see, when God see you laying your life down and you trusting and holding on to him like that, he will come through.